In October 1987, a girl named Tiffany was murdered in her garage on the night of her Sweet 16 party. 2 days later, another girl, Marisa, was found dead in her family's cabin in the woods. And on Halloween night, a third victim named Heather was killed in the parking lot of an amusement park. All 3 victims were 16 years old and were stabbed 16 times, so the killer was nicknamed the 16-Stab Killer. The murderer never killed anyone again after that, and his identity was never discovered. Since then, the killer's mask became infamous, and every Halloween in Vernon people dress up as the 16-Stab Killer. Chris Dubas hosts a podcast about these cases each Halloween and organizes a tour of the murder sites for visitors. Later, Jamie, who is preparing to go to a certain Halloween concert, gets a visit from her mother, Pam. Pam tries to convince her not to go out, since she was a close friend of the 3 girls murdered in 1987. Even though 35 years have passed, Pam still lives in fear of the killer. However, Jamie insists on going, saying she's good at self-defense. Her father, Blake, offers to drive her to the concert, and he notices someone is messaging Pam. She assures him it's just a mom's group chat. Later, Blake drives Jamie to her best friend Amelia's house. There, Amelia's mother, Lauren, an old classmate of Pam's and Blake's, complains that her boss won't even give her Halloween off and rushes to work. Meanwhile, Pam is home alone when a masked man appears at her door. She thinks it's just someone in costume asking for candy, but when she sees a knife in his hand, she slams the door and calls the police. The masked man forces the door open and attacks her. Surprisingly, Pam fights back. She's been preparing for this day since she was 16, and she pulls out a knife and threatens the intruder, saying the police could arrive at any moment. This makes him flee, but he quickly reappears, attacks her from behind, and stabs her exactly 16 times, killing her. Chris is broadcasting live from outside the house when it happens, and Jamie is left deeply shaken. The next day at school, the police arrive and ask Jamie where her father was when the murder occurred. They speculate that Blake might be involved, since Pam and Chris had been exchanging messages frequently. However, Jamie dismisses the suspicion, insisting her father would never do such a thing, and blaming the police for not catching the killer 35 years ago. After school, Jamie goes to a science fair, where Amelia is building a time machine. Amelia explains that her mother Lauren had worked on a time travel project before, but never finished it. Now, with her mother's old notes, she's determined to build a functional time machine. She wants to go back to October 27, 1987, when the first murder happened, so that Pam would still be alive. That night, Jamie watches Chris's true crime podcast, but her father tells her not to listen because Chris always turns tragic murders into entertainment, especially ones from 35 years ago. The next day, Jamie meets Chris in a cafe and asks if he and Pam ever had a romance. He denies it, clarifying that Pam was dedicated to solving the serial killer case, which is why they messaged. He also reveals that Pam received a death threat from the killer right after the last 1987 murder, warning that she would be next. Shocked, Jamie returns to the science fair to find Amelia, but the 16-Stab Killer appears and begins to attack her. She manages to run and hide, and in her panic, she stumbles into the photo booth time machine and tries to activate it. Unfortunately, the killer follows her, and while trying to stab her, drives his blade into the machine's control panel by mistake. This causes an electrical surge that instantly powers up the time machine. Before he can grab her, the machine transports Jamie back to 1987, exactly on the day of the first murder. At first, Jamie is terrified to realize she's 35 years in the past, but once she understands she can save her mother, she steels herself. She places an out-of-order sign on the booth and approaches a nearby woman to ask about her mother. The woman tells her that Pam is at school, so Jamie heads there. She presents herself as a Canadian exchange student and is admitted quickly thanks to a lazy administrator. During gym class, Jamie is stunned to see Tiffany, Marisa, and Heather alive. When training begins, she searches for her teenage mother, but is surprised to find that Pam back then is a complete bully. Nothing like the dedicated friend she knew. After class, she learns about Tiffany's birthday party that evening, the same party where the first murder will occur. Jamie tries to persuade the girls to cancel, warning it will be boring, but they laugh at her. Frustrated, Jamie goes to the local police station to ask for help, but the officers mock her, saying no murders ever happened in their town. With no other options, Jamie starts investigating at school. She asks the lazy administrator about Amelia's mother, Lauren, and finds her in Lauren's classroom. Although Lauren is confused by Jamie's presence, she believes her when Jamie shows her the secret notebook detailing the murders and the plan to build a time machine. No one else could know those details. Jamie explains that she wants to stop the killer to save Pam, and that the only way back to the future is via Wi-Fi, non-existent in 1987, so she needs Lauren's expertise to find another solution. The scene shifts back to 2023, where Blake is desperately searching for Jamie and talking with the police. Amelia arrives and reveals that Jamie used her machine to travel to the past. Naturally, no one believes her. Only Chris seems intrigued. Meanwhile, in 1987, Lauren and Jamie attend Tiffany's birthday party that night to try to prevent the murder. Jamie meets a shy teenager named Doug, who will one day become her school principal, and is horrified to realize that the handsome boy flirting at the party is her own father, Blake. She also learns that at this point, Tiffany and Blake are dating, and that Blake and Pam haven't yet met. Jamie does everything she can to keep the three girls safe, but they don't take her seriously. Later, Tiffany goes upstairs with a boy and then excuses herself to the bathroom. When she returns, he's gone. She hears noises from the closet and waits, and suddenly the killer emerges and savagely stabs her. The loud music in the house masks her screams. Jamie rushes to the second floor to save her, but arrives too late and finds Tiffany's lifeless body in the parents' bedroom, different from the original timeline, where she was found in the garage. Terrified but determined, Jamie realizes she can rewrite events. She and Lauren escort Pam home that night so she won't be alone with an active killer. Pam asks how Jamie knew about the murder. Jamie claims she's psychic and can foresee who will die. The three decide to stick together. Jamie asks Pam if she knows anyone who hated the girls enough to kill them. Pam admits that many people could be suspects, since she and her friends bullied a lot of kids. Meanwhile, back in 2023, Amelia works on improving the time machine to bring Jamie home. Chris arrives, intrigued, and inspects the device. He then corrects his memory. The original murder of Tiffany actually occurred in the bedroom, not the garage, clear proof that Jamie's actions are already altering the timeline. Back in 1987, Jamie tries to prevent the second murder. She persuades Marisa and her friends to skip the cabin in the woods and stay in town instead. Marisa suggests going to her parents' place, and Jamie agrees. But upon arrival, Jamie is horrified to see it's the very same creepy cabin in the forest where Marisa died. She desperately urges them to leave and sets up safety rules, but they mock her and lock her out. Peering through a window, she sees Heather unconscious on the bed. Marisa and another boy remain outside. At that moment, Doug reappears as the killer. He steps out of the closet, approaches Heather, and turns up the radio to drown out her screams. Heather awakens, tries to flee, but he throws her down the stairs and kills her, changing the original order of deaths, since in this version, Heather dies second, not Marisa. The others fight back, but are overpowered. Nevertheless, they survive until Doug flees the scene. The teenagers then go to the police station to report the murder. Jamie offers the killer's blood for DNA testing, but the officers admit they don't know what DNA is. Back at school, Jamie talks with Damon, a nerdy classmate, and confirms he has no connection to the murders. Doug then appears and orders everyone into a classroom. The class, led by Jamie, plans to trap the killer using Marissa as bait, since they know she was to be the last victim in 1987. Soon the killer returns. There's a fierce struggle, and just as he's about to stab Jamie, one of the students stabs him fatally in the back. They unmask him and discover he is Doug. It's revealed that a year earlier, a girl named Trish died in a car accident after being bullied at a sleepover, hosted by Tiffany, Marissa, and Heather. The girls forced Trish, nicknamed Fat Trish, to drink until she was too drunk to drive, and she crashed and died. Trish had been dating Doug. Devastated by her death, he donned the mask and killed the girls who tormented her. Horrified that her mother Pam was among the bullies, Jamie confronts Pam, who insists she never attended that sleepover. Marissa confirms Pam wasn't there either. Jamie is puzzled about why someone would have threatened Pam's life, and before they can reflect further, a second assailant appears and kills Marissa from behind. He then chases Jamie and murders Chris's father, while Chris is live streaming on television. Jamie and her friends manage to get back into the time machine booth, which is now operational again. Lauren warns Jamie that once the machine starts, she must stay inside or she will be thrown against the wall and killed. But while Jamie and Lauren are talking, the second killer arrives and attacks them. Pam shows up to help, and the three of them struggle with the attacker. As the machine's mechanisms whirl, Jamie, Pam, and the killer are pinned against the walls. The killer, now aware of how the device works, moves behind Pam and stabs her once. Jamie shoves her mother out of the way just in time, and the machine tears the mask off the killer's face, revealing Chris from 2023. Chris confesses that he didn't know Doug was the original killer, and that he only murdered Pam to keep the legend of the 16-stab killer alive for his podcast, and to outshine his father's success. He also admits he planted the fake warning note to Pam to generate more content and fame. Chris then attempts to kill Jamie, but she shoots him with a nail gun, pushes him into the spinning machine, and kills him. Jamie returns to the present, one day before Halloween, and is relieved to find Pam still alive and happily married to Blake. Lauren explains that this timeline is different. She has become a bioengineer. Amelia is still Jamie's best friend, and Jamie, now called Colette, has a 34-year-old brother. Chris, in this new timeline, lives in a monastery in India, traumatized by witnessing his own death on live television, unaware that it was himself from another timeline.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.